Welcome to the Fireplace, a warm and welcoming space where we discuss all things multicultural and cultural diversity. Today, I'm speaking to a special guest. She needs no introduction, but for the sake of our new viewers, I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Thank you, Edward, and I'm really pleased to join you at this Fireplace chat. Thank you for your work. Very
Welcome.
Important to have these conversations.
Thank you.
So I'm Gail Ker. I'm currently CEO of Thriving Local. We're a fairly new organisation, even though I've been in the sector for 30 years. We're working in Logan particularly, and most especially with our multicultural communities.
Right.
Particularly looking at issues for women and young people, but more broadly, diversity and multiculturalism, particularly as it relates to social and economic inclusion and participation. So my work has always been in refugee and migrant settlement, helping people come and settle into southeast Queensland and help them to unlock the assets and the rich talents and wonderful gifts that our multicultural community bring.
Awesome.
And that's been my life's passion, my work, and I am still so pleased to be doing that work, particularly in Logan. I live in Logan. My parents do, my kids and my grandkids do. We're 4 generations that live in Logan.
Wow.
I'm very proud of our city and our state, and you know what it means for all of us to be Australians, regardless of when we came. 5 days ago, 5 years ago, 5 generations ago, or 50,000 years ago as our First Nations people. We are all Australians and we all belong, and we need to make sure that happens in local communities like Logan.
Wow, what a perspective. Thank you for that introduction.
Thank you.
And thank you for being an asset to the community that you're serving and Australia as a whole.
Yeah, Australia is a rich country, but we've always been a country of migration. Even though that migration pattern has changed and maybe we see people coming from different countries, different faiths, different beliefs, you know, we're all human beings at the end of it, and we all want to invest and benefit from what this beautiful country offers.
Awesome. Thank you. And you just mentioned about the organization being relatively new. I just noticed that there's been a bit of a branding in the organization. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, thanks, Edward. So 2.5 years ago, the Queensland government funded this pilot project for Logan, and it was really to look at, with the funding that comes into Logan, which is significant and needed, we still can get gaps and duplication.
True.
You know, why does that happen? And who might be falling through those gaps and maybe not getting the services or the support that they might want, need, and navigating that system. We do live in a very systemised world, and understanding how to get what you need when you need it, especially when you've got language barriers or this, you know, the way we do life here can be confusing and complex. So how do we make that work better, particularly for our multicultural communities?
Awesome.
So it's really looking at where funding comes from, where it goes to, and often that's our service system. So 3 levels of government, through service providers, but I particularly understand and acknowledge the work that our community leaders and our faith leaders and our community groups do to support their communities, to support our community. If you've fallen through one of the gaps, if you're not in a system and you're not getting what you need or what you desire, then often people are going to those volunteers, those hard-working community leaders, community elders and community groups, and getting that support and assistance because it's trusted, it's safe. You know, community leaders understand language and culture. They help people to get what they need. And often, Edward, that's a job. One of the key things can be employment.
True. I love the way you have responded to that, and probably if you can just highlight a little bit how culturally diverse and multicultural community voices are generally being heard and represented in the planning and delivery of those services?
Well, we are a very diverse country, or city I should say. There's 234 different cultures represented in Logan. So, we're not homogenous. We've all got different faiths and cultures and languages and practices. So, being able to respect that that's our history, that's what's near and dear to our hearts. And I also understand, Edward, that a lot of people didn't choose to come to Australia. That journey came because of conflict and war and displacement from their own country. So, migration is as diverse as the people that come here.
True.
So, for some people, the journey towards what you need is different to each other. So for people who've come with skills and qualifications, can communicate in English, have more of a knowledge of westernised systems, have a different pathway and sometimes a different advantage to someone who's come from a refugee camp or a different settlement experience. So from my perspective, the work has either been through being a service provider, a settlement service provider. So I was previously with Access Community Services, which is now SSI.
Oh, great. Yeah.
But there are a number of other settlement services, and Logan is very lucky to be home to organisations like Multicultural Australia, SSI, Multilink, Islamic Women's Association, QPAST, EFNI, as well as some of our other organisations like Kingston East Neighbourhood Group. So we're very fortunate to have a very strong and good service system, and all of those agencies and their workers and their community groups work very hard. But sometimes, people need more than what is formal.
True.
Sometimes what they need is what we call that informal system, those, volunteer community groups. So, we engage with people through sport, through festivals, cultural celebrations, faith groups, a lot of our women's and youth groups. So, it's really important to try and meet people where they're at. And not everybody is in that formal system.
No.
So we've got to really make sure that the voices of Logan, which aren't as diverse as what we've spoken about, are heard, that people are seen, and that we're not cutting off their voice from being heard by service providers, by government, because there's a great example, Edward, of draft horses. A draft horse on its own can pull about 1,000 kgs. You'd think if you had 2 draft horses that would double the capacity.
True.
It actually triples it. So our project, and I think where I want to work with our multicultural community, is recognising we're draft horses. If we can all work together and collaborate and be better coordinated, we're going to be much stronger and much better together as we take it on and tackle what are some of the really hard things to help people with. Domestic and family violence, health and well-being, mental health, our young people, education, training, employment, housing. There's a lot to be aware of and to have access to in our system. So we've all got to work together not to let people behind. And I think with our multicultural communities, sometimes making sure their voice is heard directly, not through another channel or another mechanism, that what they think, what they feel, what they want heard and what they want to say reaches the ears of those with influence and power. So that policy and program design is targeted to what we know might be missing in the community, not just what is always there.
Great. That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
And impressive work too.
Yeah, done by a lot of people in this community.
And the output is so huge.
Yes, yes. And so much goodwill, Edward, whether it's our mainstream community or those settlement providers or those very valuable volunteers and community leaders and groups. When we work together and plan together and have equality about what we need, that's a very powerful position we all should work towards.
Great. Now, understanding that Australia is a very multicultural society, and so is Logan community, how do you see the cultural diversity enhancing the lifestyle and the communities of Logan through your work? And how does that contribute to the community in terms of economic, social, and the well-being of society in whole?
Yeah, Edward, I think sometimes we put a very, very strong emphasis just on food and festivals and culture, and that's very important. And it's very important for our communities to continue their language and to keep celebrating and promoting and being proud of cultural histories and backgrounds. But the truth is, I think often having a job, being part of the education system, earning money, that creates better social connections. The dignity of a job, when you're earning your income, your kids see you working, you can buy a house, buy a car, the opportunities that financial success creates for people is what is so important. And I've yet to meet a person, even a woman with large families that have been in refugee camps a long time, they want to work. They want that opportunity.
True.
And if you've not had that before, then I think it's really important we make sure we do everything to create that opportunity for everyone.
Great.
That even though there might be challenges, it might be language or it might be understanding how to get into our workforce, we've got to break through those barriers and we've got to create the opportunities to do that.